it's Ken Gaddy with YouTube channel Gamebits for the IndieSider podcast, where I play indie games and then interview the developers. This week I'm playing a game by Popcannibal. That game is for the Nintendo Wii U, and that game is Girls Like Robots, originally released for iOS in 2012, the year that Metacritic called it the 13th best game for iOS, which is really, really high. It's finally come out for the Nintendo Wii U, and I am here to check it out. Popcannibal is based right here out of Boston, so I've actually bumped into the developer before. His name is Ziba Scott, heck of a nice guy. Looking forward to chatting with him in just a moment, but first I'm going to show you what this game is and how it works. Place the robot next to the girl. Okay, so I choose this square and tap A. And the girl is happy, because girls like robots. Place the nerd next to the girl. Okay, the nerd is happy, the girl is not. So we got some stereotypes going on there. And then they all get on the bus. It's a school bus, all aboard, and they go off to school. And this game basically becomes a puzzle game that you could almost classify as a seating arrangement simulator. In each level, the grid is a slightly different shape, and you are being given different tiles, different characters, each one with different emotions that you have to take into account. So let's put everybody somewhere. Girls Like Robots, and we only have the one robot, so let's put the robot in the middle so that all the girls are happy. Yay, we got it. Uh-oh, there's an unhappy girl. So I can't just drag them off with my gamepad. I can't move them. I have to actually click undo, which is the B button. That's a slightly cumbersome interface decision in my opinion, but whatevs. So, okay, I'm placing a girl, and another girl, and a robot, so just like before. So I learned how to do undo there. Can I fill up the happiness meter? Okay, so now I got 3 girls and 2 robots. So again, we'll just go every other one. Yay, I got it. Empty spaces. Huh? And there we go. Yay. Maximum happy time go. Score 26. Okay. I think I can figure this one out. I guess go something like that. And then the nerds will show up shortly, and they have their own rules. They like to stand in corners. They like edges. I guess they have been dealt a dead man's hand. Don't like to have their back to the door. So I'm going to continue playing this game. As you watch the tutorial, you'll see how the different character types work. You'll learn more about the game's mechanics. But I'm going to be pairing that with the interview. So go ahead and stay tuned and watch as I play the game and talk with Mr. Ziba Scott. Today I'm speaking with the creator of Girls Like Robots and the founder of Popcannibal, Mr. Ziba Scott. Hello, Ziba.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
I am well. How are you?
Excellent. Congratulations on the Wii U release of your 2012 iOS game, Girls Like Robots.
Thank you very much. Only 3 years later.
So, obviously, this game has been around for a while. It's seen a couple of different permutations and platforms. What is it like to work on various iterations of the same game over such a prolonged period?
It becomes more of sort of a technical exercise and a marketing one than a game design one at that point, when a game's design is pretty much settled. Though we did do some new stuff with the Wii U. Unfortunately, I love technical exercises. It sort of, I think it's been a nice tour through Unity and its capabilities. You know, Unity advertises all this cross-platform capabilities, so I've tested it out.
So this isn't an issue of you just wishing this thing would die so you could move on. You actually enjoy the different, the variations of challenges and difficulties that the various stages of its evolution present.
Well, you know, 3 years after the original publishing and, a full year really of that developing it. So, I have to make a commitment to being positive about it and not getting in that spot where I'm angry at it. At this point, yeah, I'm very ready to move on. But, there was a lot of forced but also sincere optimism about, yes, let's do Girls Like Robots once again.
Because I imagine each version gives you the opportunity to iterate upon it and, make it into the game you want it to be, but for some reason were not previously able to.
Well, it's interesting. So, we started with iOS, and then actually started developing the first version was actually, it's PC, and then I went to Android, was the first full version, but I never released Android, but I developed on it because it was just easier than iOS. Then iOS, did a Flash version, PC, Mac, Linux, and an unreleased BlackBerry version. And all those were really pretty much the same in terms of design. I didn't change too much, just very few tweaks until we got to the Wii U one, and that's where we really, for what I think is probably the finale, went nuts and added a lot of stuff. Oh, sorry, Windows Phone. Microsoft actually paid me to add a significant new features to Windows Phone version.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they have this App Campus program. I don't know if it's still running, but they are sort of you apply and say what you're going to do, and they give sort of these lump sums to developers. It was just in the early days of the Windows Phone where they're just trying to get good stuff on there.
So why, for the last version of Girls Like Robots, did you choose Wii U and not, say, Xbox One or PS4?
Just in terms of the audience, Nintendo skews younger, at least anecdotally as far as I can tell. Younger, more brightly colored. You know, the Wii U in particular was not getting the latest Call of Duty releases and whatnot, so I'm not actually spending my time advertising to that crowd as much. I'm more going for a crowd that's already accepted the bright colors and cheerful oddities of Nintendo into their lives, and that's much more where Girls Like Robots fits. Plus, I had a publisher in Japan who actually did the porting and some more work for the Wii U version for the Japanese release.
That's right, you went with the organization Unity Japan?
Yeah, so actually they started with Kakaheshi. I'm probably butchering the name. Kakaheshi Games contacted me about doing a Japanese translation of the Steam version, which we did first, released in Japan, and based on how critically well that did, we signed up and did a Wii U together.
Why did you choose to go with a publisher instead of DIY and self-publishing?
I mean, I've certainly done both with Girls Like Robots. I self-published Wii U in North America, and I've self-published Steam and Windows Phone. But the initial launch was Adult Swim published with iOS, and I really enjoyed working with them. They have a good reputation. They have good people who made some gentle design nudges, and then just got a lot of attention for the game, which allowed me to focus on making that game, making other games, and doing it better. So, especially in the Japanese market, what am I going to do? Self-publish in Japan? I don't think Nintendo would communicate with American indies for the most part. So that was just a real rare opportunity to have an inside team in Japan doing stuff for me.
So it's mostly the marketing and, in some cases, the distribution that having a publisher really helps with.
Yeah. Unity Japan, though, they did take on a bigger role. They wanted to make this edition special. They're very enthusiastic, and they actually added some really significant features to the release. Local multiplayer competitive mode, and the ability to take pictures with the Wii U gamepad of your face or anybody's faces and use those to replace all the faces in the game.
So those aren't features you added? Unity Japan did that?
Unity Japan added those two things. Well, I gave them a list of things that they said, if you could add things, what would you do? So these are the things I cut, or didn't even dream to put in scope, and they did them.
How did it feel handing over the code to your game to a third party?
That's weird, because I've been the tyrant to that code base for years. I use versioning, but it's always just been me committing. It was tough, especially that many years into it, I just figured I was passing off a torch in a way. I didn't expect to be coming back to it. I did a bit for the North American Wii U release, but they've done things that I don't know and I haven't looked at, and I may never. I don't know. We'll see.
So does that mean that these features, especially, for example, the two-player mode, which is not as dependent on the Wii U gamepad hardware, will not necessarily be propagating back to the iOS or Steam versions?
Yeah, we haven't updated iOS in a while. I don't know how much of a call there is for it. It's a really great game as it first came out. These are sort of extras. It's sort of, as I put out on a new platform, the question for real fans is, why would I buy again? Why would I play again? Why should I be excited? If you're a first-time player coming to it, honestly, any version is going to be great. It's a much bigger game than it seems, so I wouldn't worry about getting the short end of the stick in any way. So I don't see a whole lot of reason to backport some of the new features.
What do you mean it's a bigger game than it seems?
The game doesn't, in a lot of ways, the game doesn't telegraph what it is very well from its material. In parts, Luigi's the artist, we wanted to make something weird and interesting and different. And in doing so, we made something that you can't look at it at a glance and really size it up as well as some more formula following games. This game has 6 to 8 hours of puzzles and story in it. One complaint we've never gotten about the game, or never more than, never to my memory, is that it's too short.
You mentioned the artist Luigi. Didn't he also do the Counting Kingdom?
Oh yeah, Luigi's done a lot of games in Boston.
Oh, excellent, because I featured the Counting Kingdom on, I believe it was episode number 5 of this podcast, more than a year ago.
Yeah, Luigi did all the art for Counting Kingdom with Jenna Hofstein and Little Worlds Interactive. He did Jungle Rumble for Disco Pixel and Trevor Stricker. He did Elegy for Dead World, which I worked on with him and Dejaban. He did some art for Eric Asmussen 82 Apps as Pone. And I'm probably forgetting some others. And of course, new games that we're working on now.
The show notes for this podcast will include a link to his portfolio found at superluigiland.net. It is quite extensive, and it also explains why I was so enraptured by the art for Girls Like Robots, because I loved the Counting Kingdom as well.
Yeah.
Although technically your game predates the Counting Kingdom.
I scooped up Luigi just after he'd wandered out of undergrad, found him hanging out in a hallway and latched onto him.
You were the one who rose him up from out of the gutter.
I'm the one who convinced him not to get a real job, I guess.
And I'm sure he's been hating you ever since.
It's complex. Relationship status complicated.
To say the least. So you've had a lot of different experiences publishing this, either by yourself or through others for various platforms. On the Steam version, you went through Greenlight. What was that experience like?
That was trying. It was an adventure. I'd been shooting to go on Steam. I've been planning for it. That was the first platform I was going to do. I got distracted by Adult Swim. It was a very good distraction, but so I'd had my eye on there forever, and there was no such thing as Greenlight, and it was really just kind of about knowing somebody to ask. And I'd felt like I'd finally met enough people in the world to know somebody to ask just about the time they invented Greenlight, and everything shifted. They made the messaging pretty clear to all their old indie friends that you don't get on by knowing a friend of a friend. You get on through Greenlight now, so please do this. So that was sort of jarring. And then I don't know what your experiences or other listeners are with the audience of Greenlight. I think it's a really different audience of people who go through Greenlight and vote than people who actually will end up buying or playing your game on Steam. A lot of the first reactions to it, even though initially this game was designed for Steam, but came out on iOS, was get your Flash-looking mobile garbage off of our PC store. It was sort of the feeling that I was getting from the comments in Greenlight.
That's not the most welcoming.
Yeah, it was just strange. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff. And just, it felt a lot of sort of this childish, flippant, dismissive of something because it didn't have zombies or guns. I love zombies or guns. So that's not what this game was. But there seemed to be this sentiment that it's sort of this anti-quirky indie sentiment. Maybe I'm just it's sour grapes because my game wasn't telegraphed from it. But the reason it makes me think that it's not all just me and my game is that when we actually got through Greenlight 384 days later, the reviews of the game on Steam are excellent. It's very positive, well over 100 reviews, great ratings. So there's this disconnect between Greenlight and Steam that can be a real hurdle for getting certain types of games through.
In order to review a game on Steam, do you have to have purchased it and linked it to your Steam account?
Yeah, I think you have to have played for a bit too.
So the people who were downvoting your game and didn't want your Flash garbage in their store probably didn't then go buy the game to review it.
Right. Yes. So I guess I'm not sure what the indicator here is, but it's just that Greenlight allows a public display of, I don't know, hatred, dismissiveness that isn't necessarily going to match really sort of the market value that your game has, the market and critical value that your game will actually have on that actual platform when it's released.
So how do they correct that imbalance or police that community? Is there any better way to go about this that you can think of?
Well, what they've done since then is just dramatically lower the bar for what it takes to get through Greenlight. It's, as far as being a gauntlet of things you have to hurdle through, they just cut off the last 9/10, and now every month they're putting through as many as, went through in the first year. I mean, they've really just cranked up the volume. So that solves the part where you feel maybe you're unjustly stuck in Greenlight. Like, I'll bet we would have gotten through really quickly now. But it doesn't change. The whole point of Greenlight is to get on to Steam via merit and prove that you have this market value, at least my understanding. Well, a lot of the point of Greenlight was to take load off of the style makers in Steam, to make sure they don't have to be choice makers. But I don't know. I don't know if this rushing games through Greenlight thing fixed the problem that Greenlight was trying to fix in the first place.
But on the bright side, you now have that red badge of courage where you can say, I survived 2012 era Greenlight.
Right. My favorite comment that I always hold is my memory of that is someone was just so angry at the game's existence that their comment was something like, those robots better be dildos because this game is didlos. And they were so angry they couldn't spell dildos right the second time.
Wow, that is some rage right there.
Yeah.
Impressive. 384 days, really?
Yeah. It was the 13th best reviewed game, iOS game of all 2012. So it was critically, and I had all these quotes and stuff to go with it, and I had all these reasons for people to believe in it. being a huge critical success on mobile, just did nothing in terms of impressions on Greenlight.
And there were probably several hundred, if not thousands, of games released in 2012. So to be the 13th is saying a lot.
It's like right above like Angry Birds right above Field Runners 2, actually.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And that is as ranked in the iOS store?
No, that's Metacritic.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Take that with a grain of Metacritic salt.
Yeah, okay. I do see that list here now. They have, I think Bastion is number 1. Oregon Trail Director's Cut is on here. Yeah, and there you are, 13th. Nice.
There also may be some luck. I think there may be some ties, and I just alphabetically hit above the others, but I'll take the 13th.
Don't question it, man. Don't question it. Just be happy with what you got. I have some questions that aren't necessarily unique to the Wii U version, but this is a very intriguing game, and I can't help but wonder. It has a very quirky sense of humor, as evident by some seemingly bizarre context and environments. Like, what's the game they're playing? It's not volleyball. It's Chicken Bomb?
Chicken Bomb Ball.
That's it. Where does all this come from? I mean, you could have created a puzzle game with the exact same mechanics and none of the feel. For example, like you didn't have to put faces on these tiles and give them emotions. You could have just created these arbitrary rules for which tiles go with which, and you could have just had a nondescript, static backdrop on which this board is set, and instead you create all these fantastic environments. What was your inspiration to be so, if I may say, outlandish?
Thank you. I'll take that. Outlandish. I like it. So the game, I did prototype it initially with numbers, pieces of paper with numbers on them and colors or something like that. And moving to faces was sort of the most obvious and natural abstraction of numbers. Faces and emotions are just a memorable, intuitive abstraction built into our genes to help us judge these situations. So that worked really well. Faces on squares, that's a path. Once you've drawn a face on something, a bunch of faces, you've gone down a path where you want to do that. I guess the other compulsion that really pushed it to where it is wanting to make sense of things. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I have a series of faces and different people coming in and out. It's all these weird scattered lines. So if you're going to play scattered points of information, like all right, now we add another, a seal. And it becomes this, if you're going to connect the dots between these lines, you're going to end up with this wild thing. And then imagine looking at this odd shape you've drawn, and it's sort of like looking in clouds. You look up at a cloud, and you can, some part of your brain just wants to make it into a dragon or something else. And so looking at these faces and abilities which scattered around, you look at the shape of it, and you're like, well, I think I can sort of see a dance coming up in this, or I see a train ride out of this. More concretely, I brought I wrote all the text and I did all the design. But a lot of the art, I gave Luigi this free rein, and I just started working with him as a contractor. So I didn't really know what he was capable of. As we got going, I started to learn that I needed to give this guy a good long leash to come up with stuff. The Chicken Bomb Ball one in particular, it was originally Kickball, a bit more boring. I had him draw Kickball Field, and I thought, this is dull. So I just said, want a sports field, not kickball, just make up a sport and come back with something. I think it was like 2 hours later, he sent me this sort of soccer field looking thing with these craters in them with feathers scattered around. And he just did it, as a game developer here for me hiring a contract artist, that's sort of this best case scenario where I just say, hey, artist, make a sport. And he comes back an hour later with something I thought was beautiful and slightly, I don't know, edgy is too much of a word. It's like the very, the mildest of edginess, because, there's an implication of killed some chickens.
And usually, at least in the Zelda games, when you fight the chickens, they fight back. So that's not a great precedent there. Yeah,
and then later we just put fuses on chickens, and I don't know. It's all implied violence, though.
So you never got any cease and desist orders from PETA?
No. That'd be kind of neat. I mean, I'm all for the ethical treatment of animals, but I also would like to be in the middle of some controversy like that. Sounds kind of cool.
No such thing as bad publicity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a number of family-friendly sites that will do reviews, and they generally find it pretty family-friendly. There actually is a scene in there, it's a tiny one, but there's a robot who's drinking, and they're all underage. I don't know if that's clear or not. So there is reckless underage drinking, but I've still got my ESRB of, I guess, 10 plus.
Because when I was playing this game, I never knew what to expect next. I never knew what I was going to see. And in that sense, it reminded me of another Boston-developed game, Vivian Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Where when I was playing Vivian Clark, I was just like, what was the creator thinking? This is fascinating and intriguing, but I have to wonder what sort of mindset produces such a game.
Yeah, Will Brierley. That guy's amazing. The Vivian Clark, I believe, has a lot of contributors to it.
That would explain a lot.
But, he also did Soda Drinker Pro, which is mostly his Beautiful Insanity.
Yes, that is true. So I also have a question about the... you mentioned some of the emotions in the game, and obviously the title of the game is Girls Like Robots. Is there any sort of implied stereotype or sexism there, speaking of controversies?
Oh, yeah. So, and we do get people who are not too seriously belittle, like, oh, how can you say that about girls? Or we also have girls don't like nerds. And just even using the word nerds. I mean, that's sort of the bit of the fun I poke at the nerd stereotype is sort of sits a little funny with me. But I think that I treated everything pretty sensibly. There's some reconciliation later in the game. And also they're so very abstract that the value that I hope that these concepts of people liking and disliking each other brings to the game is really just this mathematical, recognizable value of that your gut can go ahead and lay out these things that if you're doing with numbers would take you, if they weren't faces and they weren't feelings, I can't think of any other abstraction. I haven't tried too hard, but I can't think of any other abstraction that would really get you to be able to intuitively say, if I put this here, this is good over here and bad over there. It's if I put this here, oh, they'll be happy. They're not going to be happy. It's using these stereotypes, mild stereotypes, was a great shortcut towards triggering people's memories.
Awesome. And one last question, and this is perhaps unique to my interest, which is that besides hosting this podcast, I'm also the co-chair of a local monthly Contra Dance. Have you ever been Contra dancing?
No.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I'm familiar a bit, yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit like square dancing, and it has live music and a caller who calls out the moves, and the music is sort of a folk music, very much similar to the piecemeal string band, which you have playing in this game. And that, again, is an element I did not expect. That's not usually the soundtrack I hear coming from a puzzle game. And I understand the piecemeal string band hails from your home state of Michigan. So was there a personal affiliation that connected them to this game?
Yes, 2 of the 3 members of the band are my aunt and uncle.
Really?
Yes.
So a little bit of nepotism there.
I was started making the game right around the same time. They sent me a copy of their latest album. Put it on, and I had one of the very first... Aside from, I had these mechanics, these bare mechanics, but when I first got that first batch of art from Luigi with the little pink girl, she came very early in the game, and wanted to make a demo for Boston Indies demo night, and so I just wanted to make an intro for it, and it was going to be this girl walking into the scene, which is actually how the game ends up starting. And I put on Piecemeal's Spotted Pony, Cherokee. Why am I blanking on the name? I've heard this song 80,000 times. It's the Spotted Pony Cherokee Shuffle medley, I believe. I put that on, and it was just the happiest, bounciest thing. It felt like a specific, feeling and piece of art that I was putting together. I was creating something a little bit more than the sum of its parts, and that really got me excited. So, string band all the way.
If somebody wanted to buy the soundtrack to this game, do they simply buy the Piecemeal String Band album?
That's going to get you about half the sound. So, the album has actually got... a lot of these old folk tunes are things about, coal mining, union strikes, and things like that, that I had to cut out all these words. And so the albums have all this beautiful stuff. So you'll hear, what you recognize from the game, and then they'll just start singing and have this great bridge and stuff. And so if you go buy a Piecemeal album, you're going to get a whole lot more. But there are a number of tracks, because the album had so much singing, I couldn't edit it all out and still get enough stuff. I actually hired a Berkeley student to create original pieces in the style to go along with the game. So there are some original works just for the game, too. Jonathan Hawkins. Brilliant. He was an undergraduate at Berkeley at the time.
And his work can only be found in Girls Like Robots.
In Girls Like Robots. Or the soundtrack was once sold at a expo in Japan. So if you were there, you might have got a copy.
And if I wasn't, I am SOL.
I don't even have a physical print.
Not even you?
No.
Wow. Yeah, because I pulled up the Adult Swim Flash version of the game today in a web browser window, and I just kind of forgot about it for a moment. I got distracted. And like after 20 minutes, I realized I'd been listening to just the opening tune on loop and was still digging it after 20 minutes.
After 5 years or however long it's been, I'm a little down on it, but still, when I get to the part where actually the rest of the words are too, I guess that's sort of my secret pleasure. Everybody else, most people around in games haven't heard the rest of the album, so I get the secret. I hear the songs and I get to. Oh, I should say, I don't know if you got to the not many people did, so no offense if you didn't. The very last, the end of the game, did you beat it?
Not yet.
I have the stats. It's not It's more unusual to beat it because, like I said, it's a long game. But I actually saved my favorite song on the album to play in its entirety over the credits, and it has full lyrics and everything. So that's the treat at the end of the game.
Oh, excellent. And I was just briefly Googling while you were answering that question, and I discovered that this amazing band also played your wedding.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're, of course, there. That was... How is that Googleable?
You mentioned it in a Steam forum 2 years ago.
Wow, I apparently just share a lot. Yeah, yeah. No, they were. Of course, they were there, and we hadn't actually planned live music, but I should have known better. I know, knowing my family, my dad's also a very talented, versatile musician, and my then future and brother-in-law. Anyways, music just popped out of the woodworks. So really, the soundtrack to Girls Like Robots is just like the rest of the game, really personal and part of my life to me.
That's really awesome that you were able to incorporate so many elements of your life into a product that ended up being so successful. That must be very gratifying.
Yeah, makes me want to do it again.
Maybe not this exact game again. I think you've done that. But what is next for Popcannibal?
Well, after Girls Like Robots, we did Elegy for a Dead World, which there's also a lot of personal stuff in. We did it with Deja Bon. That was a lot of fun. And right now, Luigi and I have been working on for a bit under a year, a game about sailing. It's called Make Sail. It's a 3D third-person perspective where you actually find and grab bits of floating wood and debris and pull it together to make a sailboat that you ride along to more islands, more adventures, and more pieces and parts and power-ups.
And when can we expect to play that?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably not going to be done for somewhere between 6 months to a year and a half, but excellent local Boston insiders like yourself may be able to get a copy before the year's out if you want to beta test the magic.
Excellent. And if not, I'm sure that our listeners can look forward to seeing it at Boston Fig 2016.
That'd be fun.
It's just around the corner. It'll be here before you know it. September 2016 at MIT. Awesome. Well, Ziba, thank you so much for talking to us about Girls Like Robots. It's been fun seeing this game evolve. You were just demoing it when I first met you at Boston Fig 2012, and I interviewed you for Computer World. And here we are 3 years later still talking about it. It's been a great trip.
Thank you. That's been a great trip, and I look forward to continuing it with different topics than Girls Like Robots.